What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Clemente Collector. And on today's episode, I want to tell you who the winners and the losers are of this year's National. That's next.
Batting third, playing right field, number 21, Roberto Clemente.
This is based on what I observed. Maybe you guys observed other things. All I can do is be based off of what I saw and what I heard at the show. So, without further ado, the first winner of the National, I feel, was SGC.
Wow, winning.
As you guys know, I use SGC. I love SGC, not only because of their product, because of their customer service. But what they did at the National this year, I think, was amazing. They had a $15 take-home, so that was a savings of $10 a slab. And then they also had a $35 same-day service available at the National. Like, obviously, those two price points are amazing. But what I saw there also was I saw Peter just walking around the crowds, talking to people. I know he did some interviews with some other YouTubers. He was readily available to just talk about SGC with everybody there, which is just an amazing thing to see a president of a company like that just be readily available and with the people. I actually had a couple different situations I saw. So when I went there, I actually turned in 7 cards for the $15 deal. And I found 3 cards I also wanted to grade a couple days later. So I went to the booth and I said, can I add these to my order? And they said, we actually already shipped your order to Boca Raton. I said, oh, I really don't want to pay for extra shipping back home. Is there anything you guys can do? And they quickly figured out, they wrote both orders down. They refunded me for shipping. And they said, yes, we will put these orders together and you will not get charged 2 times for shipping. So that's just an example of the customer service they have. I know I talked to another collector. He was talking to Peter about possibly regrading a card. And next thing you know, they told him that he was going to have to pay an upcharge from $35 to $85 because it was a Roberto Clemente rookie and a Willie Mays second-year card. And Peter said no. He said, let's just charge him $35 for both of these. So that's another story that I was privy to of how great of a job SGC does in their great customer service. Next is a loser on the list, BVG.
Le who? The her.
So I actually took a slab with me that was a BVG slab, hoping to trade it for an SGC slab of the same card. Adam from Splendid Sports Cards actually took a BVG mantle card, wanting to trade it or sell it to one of the dealers at the show. What we found out from this experiment was BVG cards were not selling well for dealers. Dealers did not want to buy BVG cards from us, and that BVG seemed to just for whatever reason, people that were buying had no interest in the BVG holders. So I would say BVG was definitely one of the losers from the show this weekend. My next winner of the show, Mr. Roberto Clemente.
Wow, winning.
Granted, obviously, you know I collect Roberto Clemente, but every dealer I talked to said the hottest player at the show in Chicago, the hottest player at the show in Chicago was not Ernie Banks, was not Mickey Mantle. They said Roberto Clemente was the most asked about single player at the show this weekend. That tells you something. Nothing major has happened as far as Roberto Clemente in the last year. It just shows you that his popularity continues to rise in the hobby, and that's why he's one of the winners of the show for me. My next winner, and I'm actually shocked to say this, CSG.
Wow, winning.
Why? Because they had an arcade set up in the middle of the National, and we had a lot of kids in our group. The kids' favorite thing to do at the whole National was going to that arcade. They had free games, you won tokens, you cashed the tokens in for CSG merchandise and comic books and things like that. I think us as older collectors, we want to go to a card show, and all we really care about is the collector and seeing cards. But we have kids that go, and they're not always wanting to just look at card table after card table, okay? CSG really did nail this. Their customer base is Pokemon, comics, TCG. So they really did make sure that they went to that crowd. And I just think they knocked it out of the park with what they decided to do. Like I said, I know some older collectors out there would say that there's no business to have arcade games at the National. I disagree. You know, there's a bunch of different families that go to the National, and not every single one of them wants to look at card tables the whole day. CSG, way to go. You guys were one of the winners. The next loser is air conditioning. I guess the loser would be the collector at the show.
Le who? The her.
So most of the convention center didn't have air conditioning, or the air conditioning wasn't working. It almost made it unbearable, to be honest with you, after about 3 to 4 hours of being there. I came back and my shirt and my underwear were completely soaked. I think a lot of us had similar thoughts about it. Is how did they not realize that the AC was broken prior to the event? It seems like a pretty big deal to me. And we were having 90-degree days in Chicago. It just really made it uncomfortable in there. So loser, t-shirts, and underwear. The next winner are dealers.
Wow, winning.
Every dealer I talked to said they were having a great show. And every dealer I talked to had a great attitude and were willing to make deals. I honestly think dealers had an excellent time this year, other than the air conditioning issue that they had to deal with in some of their sections. I think that they were big winners at this year's National. The next loser is anybody who bought general admission tickets.
Le who? The her.
And that was me. What they did was they herded us upstairs, they put a wristband on us, and then they had us all lumped together by one door. And I'm sick now. And I think it was because of my general admission tickets, to be honest with you. There was thousands of people on top of each other. They didn't put stanchions up or anything like that to be organized. It was basically a big herd of cattle, and it was so disorganized. I will never buy general admission tickets again. My thought was, I'm only going for 3 days. I don't want to buy VIP because I'm only going to be there for 3 days. I will never do that again. I'd rather go in a half an hour early. I'll spend the extra money. I'm not going to take a chance of being in a similar situation at another National. The next winner is as shocking to me as it could be to you. Ken Goldin.
Wow, winning.
He's a winner. Why? I saw him everywhere. Walking the show floor, talking to people, just being a regular person out there. I watched the Netflix show. It was entertaining. I didn't love it, but I did not expect me to call him out as a winner from the National. We had a YouTube event on Friday. He shows up. He's taking pictures with other YouTubers, other collectors. That tells you something about the guy. I'm sorry. Whether it's for business or not, there were other presidents of companies that I did not see once. That just shows you, you know, he went in there and he actually cared about the people at the show, and I just think that says a lot about him. So Ken Goldin is a winner from this year's National. The next loser is the show layout.
Le who? The her.
So it was so hard to find people. I remember one time I called John Mangini to come look at a card with me. Half an hour later, he still couldn't find the area. And I don't blame him. There were a bunch of areas without aisle signs. The show was broken up into like 3 different rooms. So it was very confusing. The aisles were very narrow. You could tell somebody like the overhead signs in your area, and it wasn't like you could look across the room and find them. It was very, very hard to maneuver in there. I honestly felt, you know, the movie Hansel and Gretel, where they leave breadcrumbs to find their way back home. I kind of felt like doing that because I would have situations where I would pass the same tables and I'd be like, I just want to go in a different direction and see everything. And I don't think I did see everything. The other part about the layout is I honestly feel they should rethink this. So when the dealer signs up, they should say, is your collection 80% vintage, 80% modern? They should answer that question. And there should be one room with dealers that have a majority vintage and one room with dealers with the majority of modern and or section. It doesn't have to be room, but I would have had such a more enjoyable experience at the show if I knew X room had vintage in it. I would stay in that room and I would really hunt. The fact that I had to go from room to section to find vintage cards was exhausting, and I definitely didn't buy as much as I think I would have if they would have kept things together. The other thing is, there was about 6 dealers that had Pokemon, because here's the thing, my son collects Pokemon, and I wanted to get something for him to take home. Well, I literally walked around for about an hour and a half trying to find Pokemon dealers to buy him something to take home. And you better believe there were collectors there that took their kids to the show, and their kids are into Pokemon. I think the show, I understand it's called the Sports Card National, but the show really should get 5 awesome Pokemon dealers, put them in a section also. And then you can just go to that section and nobody can complain and say, well, why is Pokemon here? Well, it's off to the side. You don't have to go in that area. The other thing is, the layout had the main stage and then they had the breaker pavilion around it. You could hardly hear the conversation going on at the main stage. The breaker area was so loud. They really need to rethink that in the future. The stage area needs to be in a regular or quieter area where you can actually enjoy the shows. You literally had to walk through the breaker area to go anywhere, which was really annoying because I could care less about breaking. So that's one thing that I hope that they improve in the future, is the layout. The next winner of the show is the YouTube get together.
Wow, winning.
It had over 250 people there. The location was perfect. It had plenty of room, privacy. There was free pizza there, and it was just perfect. And I got to meet so many people there that I never saw at the show because of how hard it was to run into people at the show. I just loved it. I think Mike knocked it out of the ballpark. The YouTube get together was one of the biggest wins of the show. Next, my last win is John and Rick.
Wow, winning.
So if you haven't seen their video right here with the grumpy men at the card show, they literally killed it. John and Rick, you guys are hilarious. That by far was my favorite video that came out of the National. John was hyping it for weeks. I had my doubts. You know, they're not trained actors, but they absolutely destroyed it. The editing was great. I think if you haven't watched it, you need to go back and watch it. But that was the video of the National. Great job, guys. Last but not least, me and my roommate Dave from Legends of the Dugout. Me and Dave were in the CSG area, and they have a punching bag game. And I challenged him in his manhood to the game. So one of us won, one of us lost. I'm going to end with a clip of us going up against each other, man v man. And you guys see for yourself who the winner and loser is of the game. I thank you guys for watching this countdown. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Alright, whoever buy the other guy a drink later. Even if it's a pop. What do you want? Like I just did. Trash talk that ensues. 670. Hey, what?